Hello from CCK Law. I'm Ethan Muckelbauer, and I'm here with my colleague Brandon Paiva. Today we're going to talk about special monthly compensation. Special monthly compensation, or SMC, is a type of VA compensation for especially serious medical situations that are caused by military service. SMC pays at a higher rate than regular VA disability compensation. So, for example, the standard amount for a veteran rated 100% with no dependents per month is about $3,800. But SMC can go as high as almost $11,000 per month. There are several different types of SMC, and today we're going to focus on SMC-R, which is specifically for veterans who require aid and attendance. So Brandon, can you start by defining what VA means by aid and attendance?
Sure thing. So ANA, or aid and attendance, is a medical circumstance where a veteran requires regular care from another person in order to carry out the activities of daily living. Specifically, there are two levels of SMC-R. There's SMC-R1 and SMC-R2. So very generally speaking, SMC-R1 is typically given if a veteran's aid and attendance can be performed by a non-medical professional, such as a family member or a spouse who is living with the veteran who needs the assistance with his or her activities of daily living. Conversely, SMC-R1 is a little bit different in that the care that's provided to the veteran who requires the aid and attendance must be performed by a licensed medical professional. So SMC-R1 is done typically by a veteran's spouse or a family member is providing the care, whereas at SMC-R2, it's the higher level of care that's actually needed by somebody who is licensed as a medical professional.
Yeah, so you mentioned needing assistance to carry out activities of daily living. Can you give some examples of what types of activities of daily living and the types of assistance that would qualify veterans for SMC-R?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about some typical activities of daily living, but one thing I do want to share off the top before running through the list of what are ADLs, or activities of daily living, in order to qualify for SMC at the R level, you don't necessarily need to require assistance in all of these areas in order to qualify for this benefit. So these are just typically some examples you can expect when we're talking about ADLs, or activities of daily living. So activities of daily living, very generally speaking, are getting dressed. If a veteran needs assistance with getting dressed, whether it's dressing or undressing, putting on buttons, taking sort of pants off and sort of things of that nature, bathing and maintaining his or her personal hygiene, preparing meals and even eating those meals, using the restroom, adjusting a prosthetic or an orthopedic appliance that others would be able to manage typically alone, like a knee brace, back brace, or sort of things like that. Other common situations that can lead to SMC at the R level are if a veteran's mental disability requires another person to protect them from hazards in their daily environment. Typically, when we're talking about aid and attendance, we tend to really focus on a lot of the physical acts of performing activities of daily living, but you can qualify at the SMC-R level for aid and attendance even if you suffer from a psychiatric disability. So, for instance, even if the veteran is bedridden, meaning that their medical condition is so severe that he or she was required to be in bed indefinitely, hence bedridden, this does not really apply to temporary bed rest like recovering from a surgery. Typically, we're referring to things like fall risk or even medication management in some of those circumstances.
Yeah, so for veterans who do require assistance with at least one of those activities, how would someone go about filing a claim for SMC-R?
That's a great question. And this is one of the parts of the VA process or one of the claims rather, that's part of the VA process where there is a very specific form that one would need to fill out in order to qualify for this specific benefit. So in this circumstance, in order to apply for aid and attendance or SMC at the R1 or at the R level rather, you should fill out what's called a VA Form 21-2680, so VA Form 21-2680. This form is called Examination for Housebound Status or Permanent Need for Regular Aid and Attendance. Now, you will need to include evidence supporting your claim if you're applying for aid and attendance and trying to seek compensation at the R level. An example of some of these pieces of supporting evidence can include a doctor's report that will specifically note that you need assistance for your activities of daily living, like the examples that we had sort of just spoken about a few minutes ago. It is also a good idea to include any lay statements from yourself or even family members or even your caregiver if you have one at that point in time. Specifically speaking to what do they do for you on a daily basis? What are these sort of issues or sort of shortcomings that you experience when it comes to trying to complete your ADLs? This is really going to help VA kind of show how your illness, your injury, or your mental or physical disability affects your ability to really function and do things on your own. We do want to make sure that veterans who are seeking this type of benefit, we want to make sure that you're aware that VA may often, more often than not, will request a compensation and pension exam or a C&P exam in order to confirm the need for aid and attendance at this level. So once you file the form and you submit some evidence to support your claim for aid and attendance, you may expect, or you should expect rather, to have some sort of examination be scheduled sometime within the near future in order for VA to sort of compare the evidence that you're providing with them with the physical examination as well.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. So once a veteran goes through this whole process and they're approved for SMC-R, R1 or R2, what can they expect in terms of monthly disability compensation?
Sure thing. That's a good question because just as Ethan had said during the opening of this video, SMC at the R level or even any other levels of SMC can pay a pretty good amount as far as the difference between what you're receiving in your regular service-connected disability pay for your combined disability compared to what you could potentially be sort of compensated at any of the SMC levels. Specifically for SMC at the R1 level, a veteran with no dependents per month will receive $9,559.22. At the SMC-R2 level, you're receiving a little bit more monthly compensation in that SMC-R2 monthly pays at $10,964.66. So just as Ethan had sort of given you the 100% kind of combined disability payment at the beginning of the video, SMC at the R1 and R2 level are more than double the amount of monthly compensation.
Yeah, so you can see, like Brandon said, there is a lot at stake if you are eligible for these benefits. So one question we get occasionally is about the enhanced pension program that VA offers, which considers some of the same factors as SMC. So what is the difference between an enhanced pension and SMC at the R rate, and can you get both of those benefits?
That's a really good question. In short, you can't receive both benefits. Enhanced pension is needs-based, and that would really offset the service-connected payment you're receiving for SMC at the R level. You must choose either enhanced pension or SMC-R if you find that you're in a circumstance where you may qualify for both. But do know that you can't get both, and they would definitely offset one another. It's sort of one of the ways that the VA will try to prevent any sort of double dipping, so to speak.
Yeah. So something else that comes up often from veterans, VA also offers SMC at the T rate. So could you tell me what the difference is between SMC at the R rate and SMC-T?
So this is something that's really interesting and something that is still kind of fairly new, that's still sort of out there, speaking specifically about SMC at the T level. SMC-T specifically is for veterans with traumatic brain injuries that are so severe that they require the need for aid and attendance. So what really makes SMC-T different from SMC-R, whether it's SMC-R1 or R2, is that it pays at the same level as SMC-R2. So SMC-T pays at the same level of SMC at the R2 level, which is the higher between R1 and R2. However, SMC-T, it only has really some of the requirements that you have to meet at the SMC-R1 level. In other words, you don't need to be bedridden in order to require a medical professional to qualify. Just regular care from another person because of your service-connected TBI, so to speak. If you want more information, we have some blog posts and some information that's out there kind of explaining the differences between SMC-R and SMC-T. So definitely kind of take a look at that stuff as well.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. That's super helpful. So as you can probably tell, SMC, special monthly compensation, is one of the more difficult and technical types of VA benefits that they offer. However, it does pay out quite a bit of monthly compensation. So if you're actually researching or thinking about filing an SMC claim, if you go to cck-law.com, you'll find some helpful charts about the different SMC rates, what they pay and what they require. And like Brandon said, you can also find some information about SMC-T in particular and some of the higher rates that they pay out. You can also feel free to contact us at any time to request a free case evaluation to see what you may be eligible for. So please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment with your questions about SMC-R or SMC in general. Thanks for listening and take care.